Good morning, everybody, and of course, happy coffee. Welcome back to my garden, and also welcome to the official first day of summer. If you've never been here on my channel before, I garden in containers in Missouri, zone 6B, 7A, depends on the day. And I grow mostly vegetables, mostly for fresh eating. One of my favorite things is to be able to come out into my garden and just harvest what I need for dinner and immediately use it. It is currently nearing the end of June, so I woke up extra early today to get out here before the sun is directly hitting the garden because it is so hot and humid. The rain left, and within 2 days the heat came in, and it is summer. It's summer for sure. It's been above 90 degrees every single day. Yesterday, the feels like with the heat index, the temperature was like 103. I'm not a fan. I don't like it. It is already hot and humid out here, and I can barely see the sun about to peek over the trees. So let's go ahead and get to this garden tour. I will do my best to try and start all of my garden tours in the same area so that it's a good, easy comparison to the previous videos for myself, not only for you guys. So the first thing you might notice is that these green beans are much larger than they were a month ago. Beans don't take very long to grow. They're about 60 days to maturity, to being able to actually harvest beans from when you plant the seed. So these have taken no time at all, and there are tons of little green beans on here. I'm going to be able to eat them soon for dinner. And in this metal container right here is more green beans. There's just not as many. There was something else growing in there with it as well. I need to go ahead and just plant that out the rest of the way with green beans and try and keep a succession going so that I can have fresh green beans to eat all season. And just over here is some fluffy little carrots. The squirrels did their best to try and dig up my carrot seed and displace them and dry them out. But alas, I succeeded this time and not the squirrels, so there are quite a few carrots growing in there. And this right in front of me, I'm not sure if you can see it perfectly, is a loofah. I know that these need trellising and that they are vines and that there's no trellising right here yet, but that's a yet. It will have a trellis as soon as I can get it one. I just wanted to see how this one loofah would do in this small container. And just across from me it's a lettuce mix. It's the mesclun lettuce mix, so it's got like some brassicas in there, some bok choy, lettuce, spinach, all that kind of good stuff. And it is not doing good. It has tasted bad for a long time and is just going to seed. I'm just letting it grow because I don't have anything else that I want to put in that container right now. And it's stopping squirrels and stuff from digging in there, so it's fine as it is. Oh, and one Aztec Sunset Zinnia over there with the lettuce. Let's get you a closer look on these beans, because when I say there's a ton, I mean there's a lot. There's a lot of beans in there. Some of them, like this one right here and this one right here, are already ready to harvest, but I don't see the point in just harvesting one green bean or two. So I'm gonna wait until some of these other ones get a little bit bigger, maximum 2 days, and I'm gonna be eating these green beans. Here's the carrots, the lettuce with one zinnia. There's actually one zinnia bloomed down in there, a couple more coming, and the one loofah. The biggest difference that you may notice is that from here to here is where I had all of my garlic planted, and it is gone. It is out of the garden. It is in the house on shelves curing. It seems to have been a very strange year for garlic, and not only for me. I watch other people on YouTube who live close-ish to me and other people who live not even near me at all, and they have all had trouble with their garlic this year. Between it dying back from the top center leaves instead of the bottom drying out how it usually would. My softneck garlic produce scapes, and in general, a lot of the plants this year are just a few weeks late in comparison to usual years. It just stayed so wet and so cool throughout the entire month of June, and it usually does not do that here. This 90-degree weather, in my experience, should have been here a month ago. The middle of May, beginning of June is when it starts to get hot here, and it was not. It's been in the 70s, 80s all June and raining so much. I did not harvest the onions yet, so here, well, I have harvested some, but not all of them. Here is a container of Calibra onions. These are an F1 from Johnny's Seed, and they've done pretty well for me so far. This is only the second time I've tried to grow onions. The first time went okay. I got some tiny onions, but those ones are already bigger than what I harvested fully last year. And I've been taking a lot better care of them than I did last year. They've not been as neglected, and all the rain, I didn't even have to water them. They've been getting watered by nature. This right here, that it doesn't even seem like you can tell is a container right now. It is a metal container. And I do have this tray of cucumbers just sitting in there. These are straight 8 cucumbers, and I just think I'm gonna replant because this one's all the way dead. This one's barely not dead. Out of the 6, there's only 1 living, maybe 2, and it's not looking so good. So I'm just going to reseed those directly in place when I get a bed ready for them. All of this around it is just grass growing around and in the container that I need to weed. But like I said, I harvested all of the garlic. I actually harvested it with you guys. It's the previous video on my channel. If you'd like to go and watch that, I'll link it below. And in place of that garlic, I have planted cucumbers, melons, and squash, and a couple other random things, but mostly cucumber, melons, and squash. So in this container, we have Katrina F1 hybrid cucumbers. They are parthenocarpic cucumbers, which means that instead of the plant producing male flowers and female flowers that have to pollinate each other, each flower produces both male and female parts so that the flowers can pollinate themselves, giving you a higher guarantee, basically a guarantee, higher % chance of actually getting cucumbers and not just having flowers that don't get pollinated. Every single flower that I've seen on this plant has become a tiny cucumber, which is exactly how it's supposed to be, and there are quite a few on here now. I've harvested 2 of them to give to my parents just a couple of days ago, and I can't even say that was a loss because there are tons on there that I'm going to be able to eat. And in the middle of that, I just planted 1 Cosmo. I don't know what variety this is. I think it's probably a mix, considering there's like a purple and a white. It could be the Seashells blend. And I was actually just a second ago picking off these dead flower heads. So if you were wondering, the more you prune a lot of flowers, Cosmos are one of the flowers that the more you prune them, the more flowers they produce. Because basically when you let the flower head mature and go to seed, you're allowing the flowers to tell the plant, hey, I did my job. I can stop doing it now, but I don't want it to stop doing its job. I want continual flowers. So if you pull these off, it will flower for longer. So here are those cucumbers. This is about the size they were when I plucked them and gave them to my family. In fact, I'm going to harvest these ones right now because it is early and still cool outside, and cucumbers will taste best if you harvest them before it gets too hot. Cucumbers can be bitter if it gets too warm outside, especially in the skin. So here are 2 Katrina cucumbers. You can see they were not evenly watered. That's why this one is shaped like that. But this one is pretty good looking. I'm happy with that. Pause for a sip of coffee, and my skin is sticky. My hair is sticking to my arms. I don't like that feeling. So behind these beautiful Cosmos, get you a close-up on those. Very pretty. Behind those, in this container here, is 2 honey nut squash. Those are from seed from Botanical Interests. I also have some growing from seed from Baker Creek, and I just wanted to do a comparison and see if they were roughly the same plant or not. A honey nut squash is a small, personal-sized, sweet butternut that is squash bug and vine borer resistant, so I don't need an entire butternut squash every time I use one, and I don't like my plants to die, so that's why I chose this variety. And then in this container next to it, we have 2 Kajari melons, and one is either a early straight neck yellow squash or an Italian striped zucchini. I'm not sure which one. And you'll notice that theme here in just a second. These here in the front next to the Katrina cucumbers are silver slicer cucumbers. I have heard Jess from Roots and Refuge talk about these silver slicer cucumbers for years and years, ever since I've been watching her, and this is the first year that I've attempted to grow them. And there's a tiny cucumber! And I am pretty excited about it. And then in the middle of these cucumbers is a parsley plant. And these cucumbers obviously need to be trellised because they are absolutely crushing this parsley. But that's the same deal as with the others. I will trellis it when I can, which will hopefully be very soon. Alright, here's where you're going to notice that trend. This is for sure one early yellow straight neck squash. And the other one is either an early yellow straight neck squash or an Italian striped zucchini. And same in this container. One is for sure an Italian striped zucchini. And the other one is either an Italian striped zucchini or an early yellow straight neck squash. So I had 2 rows in a tray, one of zucchini and one of squash, and I only put a tag in the front one of each row. So a couple of them are questionable, but I do know that they are squash, so I think it'll be fine. Once they get a little bit bigger, you'll be able to tell. Like, look at this leaf and how there's like little slits in it. And this doesn't have those, that doesn't have those, and that doesn't have those, but that does. So that makes me think that maybe this one and this one are the same plant, and these 3 are the same plant. But I won't be able to be sure until they produce fruit for me. Right there is another container of just Calabra onions, same variety as the others. Okay, we've gone through all the short containers, and now moving on to the tall ones, which are the ones with most of my summer crops, peppers, tomatoes, things like that. So let's get to it. In this first container, we have a datil pepper, which is the spiciest pepper that I grow. This is the first time that I will be growing it. I don't exactly know what I will use it for yet, most likely some kind of hot sauce or salsa. But I sold a lot of them and gave away a lot of them because this one is probably all I need. Then across over here, we have another pepper plant, a couple of onions, and a celosia down in there. This pepper is a California Wonder bell pepper. They are red peppers, and this is probably the best looking bell pepper plant I've ever grown in my life. They, for some reason for me, usually stay really small, and then try to produce peppers when they're itty bitty. And that only produces itty-bitty peppers. But this one is actually so happy and has some flowers up at the top. And these 2 onions are the only 2 yellow of Parma onions that I got to germinate for me. So hopefully those do well. In this container we have 2 Sunbright bell peppers, which are a yellow bell pepper. And these plants actually also look really good. Not quite as big as the other one, but not tiny. And they definitely waited a while to produce their little flowers. That actually makes me happy. I didn't want them to produce really early. I'd rather them set their roots and make enough leaves and be in good health and then set fruit. That's what you want. And back here, this is I think this is Black Knight Nigella, and it is actually starting to flower. I'm very excited for that. I've grown this flower from seed the last 2 years, I think. And this is the first time I'll see it flower, to be honest, so I'm pretty excited about that. I'm going to have to skip around to the other side because I can't see all the tags, and we're at the point that I don't remember what things are. So we're going to keep going down this way, and I'll come back down to this container. So here we have more Calabra onions. These ones just didn't fit into the individual containers, so we have a few of those in there. And then down in here, you can barely see it, but it is there. We have a Notapino pepper, which is just being absolutely overtaken by these onions. There's also a Coral Fountain amaranth right here. And if you can see, my amaranth is all holy and bad looking. It's because of these little beetles right here these cucumber beetles and potato beetles. I think this one's a potato beetle, but both the cucumber beetles and potato beetles really love the amaranth in my garden. So I plant it mostly as a trap crop. Yeah, it's pretty if it actually gets big, but mostly look at how there's no holes in anything else, only that. So I'm perfectly happy with that. If they want to eat that, a flower, and not my vegetables, go for it. And despite what you might think, this tomatillo is not coming out of this container. If you follow the stem, you will see it is actually in here with these things. The tomatillo itself is a Rio Grande Verde tomatillo. It's just a basic green tomatillo. And in with that, we have some Australian brown onions, which are the kind that did the best for me last year. But I didn't grow the Calibra last year, so we shall see how that turns out. And this little flower right here is called a polka dot vinca. It's doing pretty good. I have these scattered throughout the garden. My love bug bought me a 6-pack of them one day and just brought them home. This next container has one Sugar Rush peach pepper, which is this one. Lots of peppers on it, but they take forever to ripen, so I'm not even thinking about those yet really until they start changing color. And then this one is a serrano pepper. There's some peppers on it. In with that is some more Australian brown onions. This one looks pretty big. Our lawnmower broke, and we've been borrowing one from a neighbor, but the neighbor has a riding lawnmower and we are used to using a push mower. So we weren't able to get as close to my containers as we usually do. We also weren't able to mow in between them. So sorry the grass is long, but that's just real life, you know? It's fine. This next container, this big fluffy tree, is a Cosmo that is huge. Look at that Cosmo down there. Not nearly as big or as thick. What the heck? This is a huge Cosmo. Along with that huge Cosmo, we have three Anaheim peppers. One of them is actually ripe in here. I typically use Anaheim peppers when they're green. I've just not needed them for anything yet this season. I haven't had enough to do like a preserving day of them. These two have just been on the plant a long time. I would usually harvest them when they're kind of more like this, but this one's really shiny, and when they start to ripen, they'll get a little bit dull on the outside, and that is when I like to harvest them. Man, these peppers are happy. And there's this one tiny guy, but he is more shaded by this kale and stuff. There's a lot of these really big weeds, and this is actually ragweed. That's one of the very common allergens in this area. Luckily for me, I must not be terribly allergic because I'm out here next to it all the time and I'm fine. In this container, we have one single Calibra onion, a dazzling blue kale, also some Chinese chives over here, just kind of covered in the corner. Looks like grass, but it's not. This is. All of this is grass. But those are Chinese chives. I really need to come out here and weed. There's a lot of grass. Right here, there's one yellow and one of this burgundy bicolor. They are dwarf snapdragons, and I love them very much. And this plant right here is a perennial phlox. It's purple. It blooms in the springtime and sometimes in the fall. It's a native where I live here in Missouri. And I just love this plant a lot. I just keep it in my garden. We actually dug it up from the river. I saw it at the river one day and I really loved it. So my love bug dug it up and brought it home for me, and it has been in my garden ever since. It's 2 days later. Life got in the way of me finishing that garden tour. So here I am back outside at 6:30 in the morning to show you guys the rest of what I'm growing. I did notice that the squash plants have grown immensely since I put them in the garden. So I'll give you a little refresh on how those are looking, and then we'll restart from where we left off. So I will put a picture up in the video to show you what these squash plants looked like when I put them in. And it has been 1 week since I put them in. So those are so much. They're like almost filling out the top of the container, and they were I think they had like 4 leaves each last time, and none of them were that big. So that's actually really cool. All right, the last plant that I talked about before my video cut out was this phlox. Good morning and happy coffee, by the way. So just next to this phlox, we have another Cosmo, which is just as big as the other one that I was raving about being giant. This one is actually an apricot lemonade Cosmo. That's what the variety is called. And it is in this container with 3 Sugar Rush peach peppers. And these plants actually have a lot of peppers set on them. But Sugar Rush peach peppers, in my experience, take forever to ripen. So I'm not even waiting on these yet. I'm just gonna let them go until they start to change color. These, when they're done, will be orange. I love using the Sugar Rush peach peppers in hot sauce because they have just this really nice kind of fruity flavor to them, even though they are spicy. But behind the spice, they're very, very fruity and very like tropical flavored. In the next one, we have one Lemon Queen Sunflower. It is a multi-heading variety that I kept in a container for far too long. That's why it is this tiny, but it's still pretty, so I went ahead and put it in the garden. And then these are 2 serrano peppers that have only been in the garden, like in the containers, for about a week, the same amount of time as those squash plants. Those are doing their best to recover from the neglect that they suffered. 2 little dwarf snapdragons back here. One is a snapshot yellow and one is a snapshot burgundy bicolor, both dwarf snapdragons. And just to the right in this next container, we have a Craig's Grande jalapeno right here. There's some jalapenos on it. This is actually the plant that you and I harvested from together a few days ago. And then 2 California Wonder bell peppers. And it's so funny to me that this plant is only this big, and the entire middle of it is taken up by one single bell pepper. Oh, it's actually starting to change color. I'm going to be able to eat it soon. Yay! And there is actually another bell pepper right here that looks like so perfect. That is like a bell pepper that I would purchase in a store. That thing is beautiful. Starting to change color as well. Just in case you were not aware, the same way that you can pick tomatoes once they start blushing and they will ripen on your counter, you can do the same thing with peppers. Once they start blushing and turning color, they will continue to change color in the house. I think the general rule that people do is like 50% color on peppers, because peppers are very prone to getting sunburn and sun scald, where if the pepper itself is in the sun for too long, it can make like little spots and rotten areas on your fruits, and who wants that? So in with these peppers is the same as the other snapdragons. This one's a snapshot yellow dwarf and snapshot burgundy bicolor dwarf. But if you'll notice, all these little snapdragon seedlings and all of these little snapdragon seedlings, I had a snapshot red dwarf snapdragon here for the past few years. It lived through a couple of winters, but last winter was just too harsh for it and it died. So I put these right here so that I would have the burgundy bicolor, the yellow, and the red all in the same container. I just let these little guys live. So that's going to be super pretty. These little pots in front and in between the containers are orange daylilies. These containers don't have drainage, so when it was raining a lot, I just tipped them over so that water didn't pool in there. Pause for coffee. Okay, where this cardboard is supposed to just be a walkway. I did have containers here, and I had to walk all the way around the garden to get to the other side, and that was no bueno. So I moved them, and the containers that were here are now over under that trellis, and I'm just using my perennial flowers that are in pots to hold the cardboard down and keep grass from growing. So most of these are types of lilies. I don't fully know what kind. My mom brought over little plastic bags full of bulbs and said, hey, let's plant these, and we did, and then we threw away the containers, and that was that. But within the last few days, these ones, this is actually the first one that bloomed, but these ones have started blooming, and they are so pretty. There's so many layers of petals in there. This one too. This one just started opening this morning. So I really love these. My mom really likes them. She specifically came over just to take pictures of it because I told her they were blooming. Ooh, this one's about to bloom. That's so exciting. That one doesn't have any flowers on it. So all of these tall ones are lilies. This one is even a canna lily. These might be like Asiatic lilies or daylilies. I don't know what kind of lilies. That's what I'm telling you. And then in this long container, I have tulips that I planted much too late. They never flowered and now it's hot, so they're dying back. And then in with it is just a little polka dot vinca. This is actually the first time I've gotten canna lilies to flower for me. Canna lilies can get very, very tall if you give them the space. And I've never given mine a ton of space, just like a 2-gallon pot. And I think these ones are flowering because they're so stressed from being in such a small container, but you know what? I got to see the flowers. I'm fine with that. We're gonna walk through here and go that way to get through the containers that I had to skip over. We'll go ahead and come back down to this container where I left off, which is this one. In this container, we have 3 Craig's Grande jalapeno peppers. And there are quite a few jalapenos hanging down under the canopy there. I'll have to make some salsa soon. I was trying to wait on my tomatoes. Right here, this is either a tomatillo that seeded itself or a ground cherry that seeded itself because I did not plant this here. And it is tall and going strong. This container has been making me very happy over the last couple of weeks. It has peppers in it, but these zinnias are taking over. So this kind is actually my favorite zinnia that I've ever grown so far. It is called a peppermint stick zinnia. They're like a creamy white color, and they get these splashes of red like a candy cane, and it makes me so happy. So that's a peppermint stick zinnia. And then this one is a queen lime blush. I do need to... Oh, hi little June beetle. I do need to deadhead these flowers because the more you prune them, the more flowers they will produce. But I wanted to leave them on here so that you guys could see them. So they will be gone today, but they are gorgeous. And then down here with them is 2 jalapeno pepper plants and 1 banana pepper plant. And this banana pepper plant is ripening, so I really need to harvest those and get them into some pickling liquid. Here's a large space where I'm probably going to put another pathway, only 1 bucket wide. Just haven't finished that yet. And then right into this Italian oregano that is, again, taking over because that's what oregano does. Although it's still not flowering, which is pretty fantastic. I did notice this for the first time yesterday, day before yesterday, within the last couple days, that we have a little bit of a caterpillar problem on my kale. But kale usually struggles with insects. When it gets too warm outside, kale prefers cool weather. But this is lacinato kale, and this is dazzling blue kale, which is actually so big. I should probably get the last few harvests out of this and go ahead and use it before it starts to taste really bad. Down here on the ground is just a container of chocolate mint. I thought that I killed it over this past winter, but mint is very hardy, so I went ahead and soaked it, added some new soil, soaked it again, and then put it out here for it to be rained on, and now we have mint. I do need to chop some and propagate it and try to use it also. I want to make chocolate mint coffee creamer out of it. I am very excited about these next 2 peppers. These peppers are new to my growing list. They are called Pippin's Golden Honey. They're sweet pepper, and I am very, very excited to be growing them. First of all, the flowers on these are stunning. Purple and white little flowers. That's so pretty. And the peppers turn a lot of different colors before they ripen, which is very fun. These are sweet peppers, like I said, and the best I can describe them without having eaten them is that I'm pretty sure they're supposed to be pretty similar to those like tiny snacking bell peppers that you get in a bag at the grocery store. And I'm very excited for those. I think it's gonna be super cool to watch them change between all the different colors. In this next one, we have another little set of dwarf snapdragons, both a burgundy bicolor and a yellow. A ton of grass that needs to be weeded out, but this is a real garden, that's what happens. And as for the peppers in this container, we have one banana pepper. Again, need to harvest that soon. And two poblano peppers. The poblano actually has a couple of peppers on it. Here's one. Here's another one. Some of these peppers were set on the plant before I placed them out into their final location. So those poblano peppers might not get very big, but that's fine because obviously there will be more coming. We also have a Cosmo mixed into the peppers over here. I think this is the seashells blend because of the way the petals look on the flower. Everything is about to be blooming everywhere. So that finishes up this entire line of the garden. Now we will skip over and talk about these potatoes. So this is my potato patch. I planted all of these potatoes in the middle of April, 3 potatoes per container, and pretty close down to the bottom, maybe 4 inches off of the bottom of the container, and just covered them up. I don't do hilling. I don't do anything special with my potatoes. I dig a hole. I plop them in the hole. I cover the hole, make sure there's not a bunch of air pockets in there, and then I let them grow. I don't want to have to take time to add more soil or add more shavings or more mulch or whatever. I just fill it up, let it go, dig them out, and then I'm done. These potatoes went into the containers in the middle of April, and they've all already flowered. These first 4 containers are red Pontiac potatoes, and these second 4 containers are Kennebec potatoes. I think they say that you can start harvesting new potatoes, which just means small uncured potatoes, a couple of weeks after they flower, which means if I wanted to, I could harvest some of these right now, but I'm not going to. I'm going to wait for the plants to continue to die back, and then I will probably harvest the least healthy looking ones first and try to leave the potatoes in the ground for as long as possible so I don't have to worry about storing them in my house. Basically, I'm going to have my garden act as my storage for my potatoes for as long as possible. So just past the potatoes is my green stalk, which is not fully stacked because I've been continually having to move it when we mow the yard. So I moved it here and we mowed where it was, and the next time we mow, we'll mow where it was, and then I'll move it over there, and then we'll mow here. So it doesn't make sense for me to totally just stack it up and then have to unstack it so much. But this is 5 tiers of green stalk, and in 4 of the tiers we have strawberries, a couple of different kinds. My most recent variety that I got is called Honey-O, and they are very good, but they're kind of strange looking, oblong, elongated strawberries, but they're really, really yummy. I also have Ozark Beauty strawberries, and the rest of them are just strawberries that I bought from the local Amish community around here, and I don't know which ones are which, except for maybe the Honey-O. I think the Honey-O is this one, and I only know because I harvested so many strawberries from it right here. And there are runners going down, and I think this one's rooted in the ground. That one's rooted in the ground. Oh my gosh. I really need to take care of that because I'd like to propagate the runners into containers so that I can keep them for next year. This individual top tier with all the tiny tomatoes is dwarf orange hat cherry tomatoes, and I've been telling you guys for weeks and weeks that these plants always get stressed and disease and start dying before anything else in my garden. They are determinate tomatoes, so I don't need them to stay alive forever, just long enough to ripen the tomatoes. So I'm just waiting for all of the tomatoes that are already set to be ripe, and these will probably be removed. I might plant beans in the top tier. I might just propagate strawberries into the top tier to make it less of a hassle. I'm not sure. Let me know what you guys think. And then just beyond that is my pile of crap. it's just a pile of crap. A lot of this stuff I thought about getting rid of, like giving away to somebody, but I don't want to give away something that's just gonna break. So like this stack of containers and that stack of containers and that stack of containers I've had for a long time. They've only ever been stored outside and they are plastic, so they just break apart. I can't even unstack them without the entire pot just breaking off. So I honestly think I'm just gonna throw those away and not make anybody else struggle with the same problem that I have had. Other ones I can give away, like this white one just doesn't have the type of drainage that I like. I can give that to somebody. Whatever of these terracotta pots I don't want, my love bug has told me he wants them, because apparently if they're newer style terracotta pots, you can crush them up and add a couple of other things and make mortar with it. So I guess I'm not getting rid of those. I have a container that I like to mix soil in. It's mostly just empty pots and like some garden tools. I do have these 2 containers of irises. These ones you guys have seen before. They're like a dusty purple. These ones are also purple, but they don't look the same. I'll try and find pictures and put them up. Okay guys, we're getting through this pretty fast now, so before we go and talk about the wall of tomatoes, let's take a look at this flower bed. This is the newest addition to my garden space. I made it myself. Had my mom and dad bring their tractor over and they just scraped the ground in a couple of rows where I wanted this to be, and then I probably 2 to 3 inches of soil off the ground. You can actually see the pile over there of grass roots and soil and stuff that they scraped up. And then I covered the entire bottom in cardboard, and at first I just had it held down with a little bit of soil and a couple of T-posts. I can show you images of that. And then I want to say foraged for all of these rocks. I don't think that's the word you're supposed to use. Foraging is for like wild food, but it's fine. We foraged for all these rocks. They all either came from the dirt road that I live on or my property specifically. And I just had Mom follow me around with her tractor, and I hand picked up every single one of these rocks. She came over and dumped them for me. You can see the pile of rocks right there that are left over. I actually currently have a couple of bags of soil that I want to add to the top of this bed. Obviously, it's not very deep. This is the mulch that will be used for this bed. And I do need to add/rearrange some rocks around this backside and this corner just to make it more sturdy. I am very happy that none of my soil is like terribly spilling out. It's downhill in this direction, so if it was going to drain out, it would be down here or maybe over here. And I see a little bit of soil on the outside of the wood, but not much. That is doing really well. That's the bed itself. As for the plants in here, these here in the corner are Asiatic lilies, and this blank spot in between the daylilies and the Asiatic lilies actually has bulbs for more of these Asiatic lilies. And then here is daylilies, orange daylilies. This entire row of tall guys is sunflowers that I kept in small containers. In fact, those little pots that you see down there, they're biodegradable mesh like nursery pots. I kept them in those for far too long, so they are absolutely stunted. They probably won't get much taller than this, but they will still be pretty, and they're producing flowers now. So that will be great, even though they're not going to get super tall. And then in the front here, we have a mix of zinnias, a bunch of different kinds, queen lime blush, queen lime orange. We have a zinnia mix. I've got peppermint stick, Aztec sunset. So just lots of different kinds of zinnias. And these are cosmos. Again, lots of different kinds. I have several kinds. I'm not sure exactly what kind those are specifically. That looks like maybe apricot lemonade. These 2 little plants down here are Goblin Gaillardia, commonly called blanket flower. This plant heavily reseeds itself, so that's why I didn't put it in my garden. I just wanted to put it over here in this flower bed, because if I get volunteers in the flower bed, I will be perfectly happy with that. This is a copper red straw flower, and we have one single food plant in here, and that is a honey nut squash from Botanical Interests. I have some from Baker Creek seed planted in other spots, and I just wanted to do a comparison to see if the plants are the same. Right there we have Black Knight Scabiosa. It does not look so good, but if it lives, it lives. These tiny baby cosmos, I started from seed much later than the rest of this stuff, and these are Cupcakes White Cosmos from Floret Farms. These are actually the first seeds I've ever bought from her, and they germinated so quickly in comparison to other flowers that I grow, and they've been doing pretty good. So hopefully those enjoy their home. In these green cups, I planted seed for bachelor buttons, and I think we've got a few sprouts, but definitely not as many as I planted. I'll probably have to reseed some. And then in these 3 green containers is a Goldie double sunflower. Like this really fuzzy texture and have a really small middle, and they're multi-heading, so I think those will be really fun to grow here. And then these last 3 sunflowers, this one in the cup and these 2 that look healthier, are mammoth sunflowers that I planted from seed that I picked up off the ground that dropped out of a sunflower at Baker Creek when I was there last year in October. This one got broken in the stem when I was hardening it off. A piece of tin fell on my tray of plants and it snapped it right in the middle. So I used a pipe cleaner to try and graft it and then added that cup for extra support from the bottom, but I don't know if it will live. Overall though, I am very, very happy with this flower bed. Quite a few people have told me that they enjoy the way it looks and that I used rocks from around the property. It just blends in really well with what's already here, and it'll look even better throughout the summer when it's blooming. A lot of these flowers are old too. I need to pick those off, but again, I wanted to show you guys. Look at them. So pretty. Okay guys, we've done the flower bed, we've done the pile of crap potatoes, done all those plants. Now it's time for the tomato wall. So on this end, we have a pot with a butterfly pea, because I've tried to grow butterfly peas for several years and they've just grown super slow. I've not gotten one to actually climb up anything. And this one is actually starting to wrap itself around the trellis, and I'm very, very excited for that. These flowers are a natural food dye, so you can use them in teas and things, and they will change your tea different colors. These are lavender. They're Lavender Queen. There is a blue variety that's more popular, but I don't have that one, so Lavender Queen it is. And then in this container next to it, we have a little red celosia and a Norwood Miners tomato. This on the website of Wild Boar Farms, which is where I bought the seed, says it's a cherry tomato, but this is bigger than a cherry tomato to me. I'm calling this a salad tomato because, like, come on, that's not a cherry tomato, but it is beautiful, and they are very yummy, and they do produce a lot of fruit. The plants do pretty well here, so I do like these a lot. All of my tomatoes need to be pruned. We're gonna just ignore that. There's another set of fruit down there. Another new one up here. This next container is mostly just grass because I need to put tomatoes in here. I have some rooted suckers that I need to plant out and I just haven't done it. I get embarrassed when my love bug comes outside and hears me taking videos, so I just stopped to talk to him. So, and this is just grass that I need to weed out of there. And then we have a couple of dwarf snapdragons. Again, a snapshot burgundy bicolor and a snapshot yellow. I got a 6-pack of each one, so I just paired them together everywhere that I placed them. And then this pansy, I have no idea what variety is. I bought it from Hirsch back in the fall, and it has just grown and then died back and regrown and died back and regrown several times. So I just let it keep growing. Here is the next container, which is heavily filled with English thyme. It is starting to flower again, so I do need to come and do another prune. But this thyme smells so good, and once got established, it is so hardy. I don't think I could kill it if I tried. I also love the way that it's cascading down the side of the container. That's super pretty. And in here with that is 2 more of those Norwood Miners tomatoes, the same as this one down on the end. Here's some fruits, some more fruits. Some of the leaves in this one are dying back at the bottom, but this one doesn't have as much airflow, obviously, because of this giant plant. So I just need to do some pruning, that's all. let me back up a little bit to show you these two flower containers. Look at them. I said I put this here because I wanted a pop of color in the garden, and a pop of color I did get. We've got a few different kinds of flowers in here. This one is a nasturtium. It's an orchid flame nasturtium that actually isn't very happy. It was way outgrown for its container, but all this darker green growth has been put on since putting it in here, so hopefully it bounces back. And then in the middle at the bottom is a dwarf rainbow sweet alyssum. It seems that this specific plant has mostly white flowers, which is fine with me. And then we have an Alaska, oh, I told you wrong. This is an Alaska mix variegated nasturtium, and this one is the orchid flame nasturtium. And then it's hard to show you which plants are which. This zinnia right here with the really bright orange little flowers is an Aztec sunset zinnia, as well as this one. And I love these. I didn't know that they were small. I thought they were just normal zinnias of this color, but they're so tiny and cute. And then right here we have a peppermint stick zinnia. This one doesn't seem to have a lot of red coloration in it, but that's fine. And then I believe this is a queen lime orange and a queen lime blush. This one's the blush, but I'm not sure which plant it's coming from. I legitimately just planted these so that I could have a nice pop of color and a container that just always has flowering flowers in it. I just wanted some beauty, some pollinator attraction, that kind of thing. So I'm actually very happy with how this container is looking. Let's go back around to the other side so you can see the other flowers. So in this plastic terracotta pot, this plant is Black Knight Scabiosa. This will be the first time I'm seeing it flower, and I'm very excited about it. Down in the center, there is a Goblin Gaillardia that is getting absolutely shaded, and then there is a Coral Fountain Amaranth, which is also a trap crop. The star of the show in this container is this ginormous Cosmo. Look how thick the stem of this plant is. It is so big and so happy, and this flower has already bloomed on it. It is a bit old now at this point, but it was really, really pretty when it first bloomed. A very deep purple with a bright yellow center. Love that. I skipped over that little polka dot vinca. So there's a little polka dot vinca in there with those two Norwood Miners tomatoes. Now this behemoth of a plant I'm so excited for. This is my Dr. Witchy yellow tomato. And this is one of the plants that I want to prune suckers from and root them because these are my favorite tomatoes. I love yellow tomatoes, and this is my favorite one I've ever tasted. It's even better when I grow it myself. Lots and lots of flowers setting on this plant. Over here, right here. And there are already quite a few fruits set on here, so let's find them because they are buried in the leaves. Oh, actually don't think that's one. There's two tomatoes in this container. This one is my Russian tomato. So these flowers are actually from my Russian stripey. And here is a Russian stripey. Oh, that's very exciting. I actually didn't know this plant had fruit on it yet. But the Dr. Witchy, there it is. I knew there was fruit on here. Oh no, there's those little white flies on there. That's not good. Oh, there's another one. That's a Dr. Witchy. I'm sure that there's more that I'm not seeing. But it's really thick. Like I said, I need to prune these. I maybe will come out here and be able to prune them tonight. This is another branch from my Russian tomato. So Baker Creek, the seed company, has a physical farm location in Mansfield, Missouri, which is a couple hours north of me. And back in April, they had a flower festival, and I vended at it. And the man who was at the vendor booth next to mine, He was selling cutting boards and sourdough spurtles, all handmade wood products. His wife is Russian, and she recently had her family send her some seeds, and one of the seeds that she got sent was that stripy tomato. I'll put a picture up here. So I don't know what that variety is actually called. I've just been calling it my Russian stripy tomato. If any of you guys read Russian, let me know what the translation is so that I'm not just calling it my Russian stripy tomato. But I'm very excited to try it. Okay, I'm glad we're almost done because the mosquitoes have come out with the sun and they are starting to eat me alive. We only have a few containers left. There's a dwarf rainbow sweet alyssum that also seems mostly white in with my Dr. Witchy and my Russian stripy tomatoes. This container is 2 tomatoes. This one is a Castelluto Genovese. Honestly, my least favorite type of tomato to eat, but a tomato's a tomato. This is the only plant I had left and it looked healthy, so I'll grow it. If nothing else, I can give away those tomatoes. And then right here is a Brad's Atomic Grape tomato. I grow these because my love bug's late grandmother used to grow a lot of her own food, and he said that every time he went to her house, she always had tomatoes that looked like this. He doesn't even love tomatoes very much, but every year he eats just a few of these for nostalgia purposes, I assume, and I think it's adorable, so I can't help but grow those for him. And then the big bush on this side is another Italian oregano. 2 containers left. Here we go. This one is growing coffee. It's also growing lacinato kale, also called dinosaur kale, or Nero Toscana. And then there is one sunrise bumblebee cherry tomato, which is my favorite cherry tomato, but I heavily neglected this plant, so it is much behind the rest, but it is bouncing back and setting fruit. So at least I am going to get some of my favorite cherry tomatoes this year. And I can prune suckers off of this and root them for new plants. This plant has an entire friggin' whole plant on the ground, basically. This is a yellow pear tomato. I bought this from the grocery store, and it has fruit set. Look at those little pears. Those little pears. And these little pears, and these ones. So there's a lot of fruit set on that one, and they're yellow, like I said. So I've never tasted these, but my favorite tomatoes are yellow, so I can only hope. Down in here with it is another polka dot vinca, and then this tomato, all the way on the end, is a Napa Rosé cherry tomato. Sunshine coming in. This Napa Rosé is also from Wild Boar Farms. It is a pink cherry tomato. They are very yummy, but they are prone to splitting. When it rains, I have to make sure I come out and harvest all of these that are blushing at all so that they don't just split open. But it is setting a lot of fruit, and it is my tallest tomato right now. In fact, I need to pull it through the trellis this way. So that's very exciting. The sun is officially peeking over the trees. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm starting to sweat. And there are tons of mosquitoes flying around that want to eat me. So that is my entire garden. In the middle/end of June here in Missouri, everything is really starting to ramp up. Tomatoes are going crazy with flower production. The squash are growing visibly every day. The onions are almost ready to harvest, and all of the flowers are blooming. So I am very much enjoying the garden at this time, aside from the heat. It's real hot. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate you being here, and I'll see you all in the next one.